psychoneuroimmunology. So there's certain attitudes that help us to strengthen our immune system. And in very peculiar ways, our immune system doesn't respond to the reality out there, it responds to how we perceive the reality. Yeah? There's kind of a trickster component in that, if you think about it. So it doesn't matter how rosy your life is, if you see it rosy. Yeah? It speaks for the American mindset and against the European, which is eternally optimistic as a people. That's one of the big strengths of America. And to some extent it's illusionary, because often it's not true, and we find out too late because we don't want to believe it. But in a certain way, it's healthy. If you think about it, optimists do have less diseases, longer life expectancy than pessimists. Strange, huh? Or maybe not so strange. Fascinating. So, same thing is you having a sense of control over your life. Yeah? Whether you are in control or you're not in control, but you have a sense of control. Okay? Makes a big difference. You having a sense of responsibility and not being victimized. Yeah? Where I can't do anything, it's not in my control, yeah? I can actually change my world. Yeah? There's a certain, I have an agenda, there's something I can do. Meaning in life. Yeah? Again, if you are able to extract meaning out of this madness, you're ahead of the game. Yeah? Religious people find meaning, yeah? Philosophical, whatever, whatever the meaning is, on whatever level, as long as you find some meaning for you, yeah? Something where you see that life, after all, with all the hardnesses and challenges, living is a good thing, and the world is a good place, yeah? Despite all the surface noise. Deep down, it is, and it is, because it's a miracle, and we're here right now. It would be stupid not to appreciate it. Yeah? And even if it's not that way, it's healthy to believe it is that way. Now, relationships, okay? Some of you might not feel that way, but relationships are profoundly healing. Yeah? Single people do not live as long as people who are in a relationship, are married. That doesn't mean if you have a toxic relationship, you shouldn't get out of it. And if you have a codependent relationship, you shouldn't get out of it. But as a rule in itself, relationship is important, whether it means friends. Okay? And that is interesting, because where does our immune system stop? Okay? Well, yeah, me being optimistic, my attitudes and so on, fine. But then, strangely enough, you have a better immune system if you have good friends. Okay? You even have a better immune system if you have a dog, which sometimes is even better than good friends. So this relatedness, profound, it's in our genes. Yeah? We're not made to be singular. We're in groups, we're group people, we need to be related to something. Yeah? In turn, that doesn't mean you have to be 500 friends, one is enough. Yeah? And feel that miracle of connection. And if you really think about it, what really happens between you and someone you have a close relationship with, it's just, if you really think about it, it's just unbelievable. This back and forth and the understanding and the depth and the empathy with each other, and how is that possible? That we're even able to tune into that. There's a whole movement in philosophy that says, well, it's only me and myself, and I have no idea what happens outside. But then, at least lately, they found what's called mirror neurons in our brain, and it shows that once I see you, you start talking to me, and you come from a certain state in your mind, the same neurons which are activated while you're talking will be activated in myself. Mirror neurons. So I'll be able to understand what you're saying. I can resonate, despite the fact that you're telling me something I might not have quite heard that way. Yeah? But somewhere this experience is there. It's fascinating. So anyway, relationships, before I digress too much, is important. Yeah? Relationship. And then obviously, ultimately, how you deal with stress. Okay, and that is a mental thing. your attitudes, how do you cope. If you do have constant stress, your adrenaline will go up, your adrenals, we talked about last time, will be activated. If you have an acute stress, your adrenaline goes up, the immune system gets strengthened short term. Short term gets strengthened, it goes longer and longer. You have cortisol floating around in the system. Cortisol, yeah, say the body's equivalent of prednisone, glucosteroid, that weakens the immune system, is used medically that way. If you have chronic stress, you will have a low immune system. If you have acute stress, you have a strong immune system because you get in contact, potentially in the old days, how our brain figured that out. There's stress, fight and flight, I might have to fight with a wild animal, and I better have a strong immune system to protect me against that. But in modern times, stress doesn't go away. We have chronic stress, we have existential fears, we have survival, however it triggers us, and that is not healthy for us. Okay, so one huge reason if someone comes to me and says, well, I get infections every 5 minutes, we check out the diet, number one, but then stress. How do you handle stress? Are you living in an environment where you feel powerless, out of control, constantly overwhelmed, and undernourished? Okay, and in a certain way, this nurturing thing is an interesting thing because many of us are undernourished without even knowing it. Okay, whenever I get a massage, I notice how undernourished I was, because I suddenly feel how good I could feel and how connected and how alive, and we just get so into our rut and into our life so that we never feel that. So it's the mindset, and you do need to have a technique how you handle stress in your daily life. Yeah? Not once a year, not at a workshop, every day. And how do you do that? Yeah? Do you exercise? If you're a physical type, an extroverted type, that might be the way to go. Do you meditate? That's another way. Do you pray? It's another way. Whatever. Do you listen to music? It's in the bathtub. Whatever. Be in nature. Okay, all this is profoundly healing, and you have to have that phase in life, yeah, that relaxation phase, even in LA, believe it or not. Yeah, we're so used to being overactive, and you can sleep when you can sleep when you're dead. Remember that thing? Is stupidity, absolute stupidity. We have to have a distance to our daily life and having spiritual outlook, where after all, whatever happens right now is not so ultimately important, okay? Having some humor goes a long way with that, yeah? And you need to think a little bit, what are the areas that trigger you? What are your profound stressors? Yeah, it's what gets to you, what gets under your skin. Yeah, and everybody has their own conflicts, and knowing that, and then trying to find out that you let that not touch you all too much. Is profound. Yeah, it's probably one of the most healthy rules in life. See, where does our immune system stop? They did the studies, I think it was in San Francisco many years ago, about praying for people who are in the hospital. They didn't even know each other. They just got the name, a group of prayer people got the name, and they were praying for that person, and they had a shorter recovery time after surgery. And people who got admitted with risk of heart attack, where they didn't quite know yet would it turn into one or not, the ones who got prayed for had less heart attacks in reality than the ones who didn't. Where does our immune system stop? Yeah? Your old grandmother on the other side of the world praying for you might be the reason, why your system is as strong as it is. It's profound if you really think about it. That's why us having friends, us caring for each other, is a very healthy thing, because our immune system ties into that. Yeah? It doesn't stop here. Okay? And other things, and vibrational things, and electromagnetic fields, and cell phones, and all this madness that surrounds us. You need to be in as clean environment as you can. So that's the section on the mind. Any questions on that? Stress. You're all handling stress, no problem for you. Clean water, yes?
The meditation thing, I know there's different ways to do it, and I know that the more you practice it, the better you get at it, sort of.
Yeah.
You've got any comments about meditation?
No, you just have to find something that works for you. Yeah? And the old traditional ways, I mean, there's a lot of, you know, New Age stuff and so on, but the old stuff, you know, Tibetan Buddhism, Zen Buddhism, you know, is profound, you know, and these are actually, it's interesting because, you know, our understanding of spirituality is that we should believe. You know, their premise at the beginning is do not believe. Yeah, don't believe anything I say, just sit down, watch your mind, and eventually you will come to the same realization people who they call enlightened will come to. Yeah? And you will notice there's a little Buddha in you. Yeah? You just can find that out, but don't believe it. It's an experience. But in order to find this experience, you need to focus on an object and notice that your mind strays and strays and strays and strays, and you know what they call the monkey mind. That's our Western condition. You know, I mean, how long are you able to focus on your breath and count every breath? You know, in breath, out breath 1, in breath, out breath 2, in breath, out breath 3. You know, after 4 or 5, you're lost somewhere. You know, and you go back to 1. You know, and you're lost again. You go back to 1. You know, and you count your breath. And after doing that for a while, you will notice, excitingly, you're able to hold your attention on your breath forever, if you choose so. Yeah, and all the other stuff does not invade. And then you notice the underlying stillness that pervades the universe, which you will notice. It's not that it's not there, but you don't notice it. Yeah? And so the exercise is just to get one-minded to discover that ultimately, how they say, there is no mind. Yeah, so, but then you can do the same thing with contemplative prayer. You know, it's profound. Father Thomas Keating is one of the Catholics, a monk, Benedict monk. Profound contemplative prayer, a long tradition in the church, which didn't always like it, because ultimately you come to perception that you have the same qualities, you know, Christ has, which is something in the Catholic Church was not really supported, because he's God and we're human, and he's divine and we're sinful, you know, and all this stuff, yeah, which is there to control us ultimately. But it's experiences. Yeah, don't believe anything. It's not what I say. It's really you finding that out. But in order to do that, you have to sit a little bit or focus or concentrate or whatever you do. Yeah, whatever technique. So wherever you come from, whatever your religious background is, you know, doesn't matter. It's there in all traditions. Okay, but it's not what people say. It's what you do in following this contemplative practices. Yes.
Did you say that stress, when it's not chronic, can be good for you?
Yeah. Strange concept, huh?
Yeah. How is
well,
that?
stress is profoundly good for you. Stress activates you, and stress changes you, and stress activates your immune system and brings wind into the old
So like, that's what the fight and flight.
Exactly. And that's, if it's not overwhelming, that's how we're built. You know, it's like we're not made as couch potatoes. We're made to handle life, and it comes with stress, and that is rewarded. You know, you have to stand out there. You know, people who have an active life and are professionally active their whole life, they don't suffer from it, you know. So, in the very contrary, you know, people who retire, you retire at 60, 65, you often, and you don't find something that engages you in the world, yeah, and maybe golfing is able to do that, but maybe not, you will have an effect on the immune system, because the immune system likes to be stimulated, okay? So stress is good for you, not overwhelmingly. You know, not working 18-hour days after a hostile boss, below a hostile boss. That's it. You know, but you need to. Randy?
What if you had the chronic stress for years? Can you rebound from that?
You're lost.
Can you burn out? Are you going to burn out your adrenaline?
No, I mean, this burnout adrenaline does happen, but it's rare. You know, I mean, there's people who don't get out of bed. You know, I mean, ultimately, burnout adrenaline means Addison's disease. You don't have anything available. You know, it's a medical disease, and you have no immune system. You have no resistance. You don't get out of bed. You have no energy. So normally the adrenals recoup, but you have to do something that's healing. Yeah? So be in nature, disappear, go to Hawaii, whatever, for a while. And then you will notice suddenly your mind is clear again. You don't have brain fog anymore. You're excited about things again. Before you only were grumpy and overwhelmed with everything. You didn't want to know anything because you were so overwhelmed, anything new because you were so overwhelmed in the first place. You will recoup, exactly, profoundly, but you have to make changes. Yeah, if you continue your old lifestyle, it won't happen.